radio station spread. News of violent attacks within the GTA walls. Welcome to the Wastes. This is Grimm Grinner on all channels. Good evening, Wastelanders. Bit of a late night transmission since we're taking a break at the ruins of a wasted out radio station for the night. Camp set up, defenses are in place, and we're resting somewhat easy. I did some digging around in this old station, trying to salvage some parts and equipment to maybe boost our own hardware, and I've actually found something that might work, which is pretty fortunate. We did also come across something a bit, I want to say, unsettling. It's been so long since the world fell apart that it's sometimes difficult to remember what happened to so many people before it all went to shit. When ferals roamed in packs and people were fighting to hold on to some semblance of the world. Of course, back then they also had broadcasts like mine, but usually more about day-to-day normalcy, weather reports, traffic, local goings-on, and the like. Buried under a bunch of rubble and remains, I was able to find some tapes of the last several broadcasts out of this station. I've been able to recover most of them, but there's still, bit of corruption and some fragments missing entirely. But it tells a pretty clear story of the decline to where we are now. Instead of just recapping these for you, I'm just going to try and play them through my equipment. It's important that stories like this are still heard, so that we can always remember what happened and try to move forward with our world as it is now. So without further ado, here's the last broadcast from this old radio tower before the fall.
Good afternoon, citizens, and welcome. You're listening to 89.7 NWK Radio, the network. I'm your host, David Burke, here to bring you all the latest, starting with some local announcements. Firstly, congratulations to Steve and Ella Maple on the birth of their lovely twins, Lily and Axel. I sure hope they bring you lots of joy. Next up, we have the local farmers market setting up for this weekend with some fresh produce from all over Ontario. We even have some folks coming from farther north bringing some of the most delicious fruits you've ever eaten, so I know I'm looking forward to it. And finally, the church service this week will be held in the community center while the church is sprayed for pests. Apparently, Minister Getz found a few creepy crawlies and made the wise choice to get it fumigated so that people don't have to worry about something crawling out of their Bibles. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into the other news in town. Bringing the Meerkats to an overall 4-3 win over the Trojans. Mayor Connors says the dog park is still off limits until the city council vote next month. As we reported back around Valentine's Day, Mrs. French's cat is still reported as missing. And that brings us to the big news of the hour, this wall being built slowly but surely around the neighboring region of the GTA. Now folks, I don't know about you, but I thought we were done building walls. Berlin, our neighbors to the south, and various other walls throughout history have been used to separate and divide us, and they all come down sooner or later, so why bother with this one? I'm sure you've all heard the rumors of a new virus hitting the scene. No name for it yet, but bizarre reports of symptoms varying from zoning out and repeating common phrases or words, to short bursts of unrestrained violence and aggressive behaviors. It certainly sounds like too many things all at once, doesn't it? I mean, really, I'm not going to deny that there may be something viral at play, but a lot of those symptoms sound just like people being people. But I guess being a small-town radio station, no one's really asking me. At any rate, I think walling up a whole region, or in this case several at once, might be a bit much. And if it is a virus, then how's a bunch of steel and concrete gonna stop it, Well, that's my 2 cents on it, but we'll turn it over to you fine people. What do you think about this wall and this virus? Call in and we'll have a chat about it. Remember, the number is... So, give us a ring down here, folks. And in other news...
That was just the first portion, and it seems so innocent. I remember watching the walls going up and hearing similar broadcasts from the other side. It's easy to forget that the other people were watching as it happened, unknowing about what was truly going on, and even more about what was coming. Here's the next tape.
That was Going Nowhere by The Winners, a band out of Toronto. They'll be playing their home venue, the Domino Club, next month as they kick off a cross-country tour. Tickets are on sale for that show, and sales for the rest of the tour go up next week. Very exciting. We're going to take a caller now to talk about the big GTA wall. Welcome to the network, listener. You're on the air.
Hey, David. It's Joyce Murray. I run the farm just a few clicks north of the station. I wanted to throw in my 2 cents on this whole wall situation.
Well, all right then, Joyce. What are your thoughts on that wall going up?
Well, David, I honestly think it's for the best that the wall goes up. I mean, if Toronto has this weird plague running amok and spreading across the region, then implementing a system to contain it and keep the public safe is a good idea. Especially since we don't know how it's traveling, so I don't want to risk the livestock out there getting tainted, you know?
Well, that's all good and sensible, but what about the people being confined into those walls? I'm hearing about travel restrictions and roaming military-style forces in the streets. That's all got to be stomping on some civil rights.
I mean, yeah, it would be, but if they can contain this thing and get it under control, then what's a few months of being in lockdown and having curfews, right?
Well, that is certainly a good point, Joyce. I guess we just need to hope that the scientists and doctors working on this virus can get it under control, and that we can get this wall taken down soon.
I'd like nothing more. David, it's an eyesore to see all that construction in the distance when I'm out in the fields, you know?
That it is, Joyce. That it is. We're going to shift gears a bit here and take you to... And that production of Out for the Count, or How Would You Like Your Steak, will be held in the high school auditorium Friday nights and Sunday matinees through July 20th, folks, so you don't want to miss it. We're going to take you now to our eye in the sky, Alistair Reed, for a look at traffic. How's it going out there, Alistair?
Well, David, it's looking oddly kind of clear today, especially on the 115. Not a lot of traffic going either direction, possibly due to all this stuff going on southwest of us.
You mean the wall?
Well, that's for sure part of it, David. But I've also been hearing reports up here of a big cluster of what sounds like protesters making their way along the 407 heading east.
Protesters? You mean folks upset about everything happening in Toronto?
I think so, but they're heading in the wrong direction, and they don't seem to be carrying any signs or anything with them from what I've heard. We're going to try and fly in that direction and get a better vantage, and then I'll report back.
All right, Alistair, you be safe up there. We've got clear skies, but we all know how quickly that can change. Okay, folks, well, I guess we'll have some excitement today after all. Stay tuned for more on this story when we get another call from Alistair. And in the meantime, let's toss a song on, shall we?
Protesters. Right. It's interesting to hear how blind we all were to what was happening. Well, maybe not blind, but we certainly didn't expect what was coming our way. Although one has to admire the hope that people seem to have. I mean, thinking that it was all going to be all right after a few months. Years later, and that region is still locked up and trying to take over what little freedom there is left in this world. And we let it all happen, with the promise of safety that the corporations have now corrupted into their form of control. I still wonder to this day if the scientists that were trying to study the virus ever found some sort of cure or vaccine, or if it was hidden away in place of the corporation's method of exterminating those infected. Anyways, I think we have a couple more tapes left.
That was Mrs. Shepherd of the Provincial Police calling to update us about this swarm of people making their way along the highways and roads, and urging everyone to stay indoors and secure all windows and entrances. If you're just joining us, what we were originally hearing about a group of protesters seems to be something much more dangerous, as they seem to be unfortunate individuals infected with this bizarre virus. There isn't an accurate count yet, but the swarm sounds to be large enough that they've been breaking into smaller packs, I want to call them. We're still trying to get through to Alistair, who hopefully has a better view of what's happening out there. But until we can get a hold of him, we here at the network just want to remind everyone to stay indoors and secure themselves. What limited information we have about the infected individuals is that they don't seem to be entering any places that are locked or look empty. They're still people, but don't seem to have anything that made them originally who they were. They're almost feral, if that makes sense. God, none of this makes any sense. If you see any infected individuals, do not approach them and find some place to hide immediately. Shit. I should lock up the studio. Hold tight, folks. We're going to play a quick track to help calm the nerves while I secure myself here in the station. Okay, that should hold. Well, listeners, it sounds like a boring day is turning into quite the act of God, huh? I'll be reporting out as best as I can, as I'm able to get more information. Speaking of which, I think we finally managed to get a hold of Alistair. Alistair, tell us, what's happening out there? What can you see?
I don't know, David. We're watching the swarm from a safe distance, but some of them seem to have broken off from the main pack and are following along under the helicopter, as if they're waiting. They're almost all caked in blood and dirt, and their eyes are haunting.
Haunting? What do you mean by haunting?
I mean, they look frantic and hungry. Let me just grab my binoculars. Oh God, they have no irises left. It's like their eyes are just pupils. Oh hell, I don't think I'll be able to sleep having seen this. We're running low on fuel, so we're gonna try and get some height again and see if they stop tracking us, so we can land somewhere, anywhere.
Are you sure that's wise, Alistair? What if they catch up? Will you be able to find safety?
I think there's a shelter near the helipad, so yeah, we should be able to get to safety. We just need to make sure we're not being followed, so we can get in there, okay? If I don't contact you again, I just want to say...
Don't think like that, Alistair. Everything's gonna be fine. Just get to safety and contact us if you can.
All right, David. It looks like the swarm is losing interest as we climb a bit, so we should be good to get to the shelter. David, make sure you're all locked up in there, will ya?
Already done, Alistair. Stay safe. Alright, folks. That was Alistair Reed reporting on what he could see of the swarm of feral individuals making their way through our little town on their way to who knows where. I'm still transmitting, and will be bringing you updates as I can get them.
God, I remember the reports that came in the early days of this. They were all eerily similar to this one. Ferals making their way through small towns and cities outside the walls of the Gat, and tearing through everything they could. So many people died or turned. It was hard to tell what fate would be worse after a while. Alright, one more tape.
Well, listeners, we're still transmitting out of the station here, hoping that someone will help, or that these infected people move on. I'm locked in, and for once I'm happy we don't have large windows to the building. There hasn't been any word from Alistair or the helicopter pilot. God, why did I never learn their name? And the phone lines are dead. I don't know if anyone can hear this. I'm just assuming, since I haven't heard anyone get fried from making contact with the antenna, that it's still operating. So if anyone can hear me, this is David Burke, radio host for the network. If anyone can help me, please. I don't want to die like this. I always thought I'd go quietly in my bed, or fight with a bear or something. Not being attacked and ripped apart by people who used to be my neighbors and friends. If I don't make it out of here, I want anyone who hears this to know. Fuck, I don't know. I never thought I'd be broadcasting out my own last words. Be true to yourself. Be safe. Take what's happened here and try and fix this world. Because, goddamn, we are screwed if things continue like this. I really don't know what else to say. Maybe I should just sign off and leave it at that. Maybe transmit out an SOS. This has been your host, David Burke, and you've all been a part of the network. Good night.
Jesus. I have to wonder how much longer this guy held out. That was the last tape, so maybe that was just before the power started being cut. It's so easy to forget what happened before the fall, or even during it. Based on these tapes, it was probably only a few more months before the walls around the Gat were finished, and maybe a year out from the bombs being dropped. Well, David Burke, if there's some semblance of your spirit out there, know that your story will live on, through this broadcast and through me. Hopefully we can go and get these tapes converted somehow before any more degradation happens, And then we can transmit it out and remind people what happened to the world so we can try and fix this one. This has been Grimm Grinner, voice of the wastes. And I guess now I'm keeper of the network. See you in the wastes. Welcome to the Wastes is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media and make sure to subscribe to hear more new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to get some cool buttons or an enamel pin, check me out on Buy Me a Coffee. Donations there go towards being able to produce the best content I can make, and I offer some pretty fun perks as well. For more information and all the links, check out linktr.ee/welcometothewastes. See you in the wastes.